You really think I'd go a full chapter without writing an essay about the greatest character in the whole section so far? The one, the only, unless my eyes are cheated by some spell, Shadowfax. Now, I've known someone who has named their Great Dane Shadowfax. I even whistle for my dog to come in the way that Gandalf whistled to Shadowfax in the movie. But the bond between them in the book is lovely, and it's so much more fleshed out than the movie had. I don't love it more than the bond between Sam and Bill, and I'll talk about that at the end of the essay, mainly because they had a really sad goodbye and Sam was distraught, and I couldn't imagine that Gandalf would shed a tear if he had to say goodbye to Shadowfax. But their relationship is still very cool. And just so you know too, make sure you like and subscribe to this video. I am publishing video essays on my first time read through for Lord of the Rings, so if you like that or you think you'd be into that, make sure you subscribe. There's tons of essays on the channel, so I think you'd really like some of the content that I'm pumping out. But anyway, this was the section in the previous chapter where we first meet Shadowfax, and from the moment that we meet him, he's cool. This is what it says. Before long, there came the sound of hoofs. At first, hardly more than a tremor of the ground perceptible only to Aragorn as he lay upon the grass. Then growing steadily, louder and clearer to a quick beat. There is more than one horse coming, said Aragorn. Certainly, said Gandalf. We are too great a burden for one. There are three, said Legolas, gazing out over the plain. See how they run. There is Hasufal, and there is my friend Arod beside him. But there is another that strikes ahead. A very great horse. I have not seen his like before. Nor will you again, said Gandalf. That is Shadowfax. He is the chief of the Miras, lord of horses, and not even Theoden, king of Rohan, has ever looked on a better. Does he not shine like silver and run as smoothly as a swift stream? He has come for me, the horse of the White Rider. We are going to battle together. Even as the old wizard spoke, the great horse came striding up the slope toward them. His coat was glistening and his mane flowing in the wind of his speed. The two others followed, now far behind. As soon as Shadowfax saw Gandalf, he checked his pace and whinnied loudly. Then, trotting gently forward, he stooped his proud head and nuzzled his great nostril against the old man's neck. Gandalf caressed him. It is a long way from Rivendell, my friend, he said, but you are wise and swift and come at need. Far let us ride now together, and part not in this world again. Honestly, that is beautiful, and I think Gandalf's bond with his horse is pretty special. And it really makes me think that Tolkien has a pet or something like that, the way that he writes about animals and the owners. Actually, owners is a very late Earth term. I don't feel like that's very true in Middle-earth. It seems much more appropriate to call them companions to the people. Shadowfax does not seem like he can be owned, but he very much seems to show his loyalty and proclivities and affections to a person or two, and it's all as he graces them the ability to let them ride him. Bill the Pony had the same kind of feeling to me. He just kind of like grew a special bond with Sam that I loved and that I will talk about more in a bit. And while Tolkien does this with he writes with like a lot of romantic language when describing locations and relationships between certain characters like Gimli and Galadriel or Aragorn and Eowyn. In this chapter, it's shocking that he also uses a horse and Gandalf. I love that Gandalf doesn't want to part with this horse again. And honestly, it reminded me of the language that is used when Aragorn is in Lothlorien, the very last lines of that, where it said he never came upon this land again. And like he had this look in his eye that was like one of just absolute love in this place and something that reminded him of Arwen. It was just beautiful language. And this language with the relationship between a horse and Gandalf, with Shadowfax and Gandalf, seems so much like that language that Tolkien used. He knows how to write romantic language extremely well. And I love that Gandalf doesn't want to part with his horse. It kind of makes me a bit annoyed that he was so quick to dismiss Bill the Pony before, even though he was kind of the right thing to do, before like they were even able to go into the mine. I also love this line with Shadowfax where the other two horses, Hasufal and Arod, weary but proud, followed their tireless leader, a gray shadow before them hardly to be seen. And then when Theoden offers Gandalf a gift, this is what the text says. Whether I came in time or not is yet to be seen, said Gandalf. But as for your gift, Lord, I will choose one that will fit my need, swift and sure. Give me Shadowfax. He was only lent before, if loan we may call it. But now I shall ride him into great hazard, setting silver against black. I would not risk anything that is not my own. And already there is a bond of love between us. You choose well, said Theoden, and I give him now gladly. Yet it is a great gift. There is none like Shadowfax. In him, one of the mighty steeds of old has returned. None such shall return again. Theoden, the Lord of the Horselands, even knows that Shadowfax is a kingly gift. But it's almost as if this really isn't Theoden's gift to give. Shadowfax seems to choose whatever rider he desires, and he chooses Gandalf because of the bond between them. And wildly, I love this little like hierarchy of horses here. There's not just like there's not just like common, I mean there are common horses, but there's like Bill the Pony, who is like a common horse or a common mule, and he just seems to have this like chutzpah to him. The same thing with Shadowfax. Like, I don't know if like he's the Lord of the Maras or he's a Maras. Does that mean he's like a god among the horses or the chief? He is the chief horse of all the horses in Middle Earth. But there's just, I love that this is kind of like ambiguous. Like I don't know what it is. And it just makes me guess really what Shadowfax is. Does he have powers? Is he like a unicorn of some kind? I mean, he's a horse, but like, I don't know. I just love this. There's like this ambiguity with this line, but also it just kind of elicits a lot of wonder in my mind and a lot of curiosity for what exactly this is and what other creatures like this exist in Middle Earth. It's just a fantastic little bit of writing here. But there's another line that I think I really, really love here because they're about to call him over for war. And Gandalf says, "Where is Shadowfax?" said Gandalf. "Running wild over the grass," they answered. "He will let no man handle him. There he goes, away down by the ford, like a shadow among willows." Gandalf whistled and called aloud the horse's name, and far away he tossed his head and neighed, and turning, sped toward the host like an arrow. "Were the breath of the west wind to take a body visible, even so it would appear," said Éomer, as the great horse ran up until he stood before the wizard. Again, I love this idea that he's talking about like the west wind being this material form, but I brought that up in a members video a few months ago, and I love that everyone here is just impressed, incredibly impressed with Shadowfax and how Gandalf seems to have this bond with this creature. I still have to say, and it might make some people mad, but I think I love the bond between Sam and Bill a smidge more. Shadowfax and Gandalf are two gods of beings. Shadowfax is probably the greatest horse on Middle Earth, and Gandalf was the gray, but now he's the white, and he's a wizard and probably the second most powerful being in Middle Earth. Something that Gandalf even said himself in the previous chapter. Their bond is still beautiful to me, and I love that Gandalf seems to have a buddy he can go through Middle Earth with, but they're both very powerful beings. I do like the idea that even though they are incredibly powerful, that they still have a need for something like companionship between the two of them, that they can be as powerful as anything else in all of Middle Earth, the greatest of their order, but they still have loneliness and they still need each other. But for me, the bond between Sam and Bill is just one of rehabilitation and care and service to one another. Bill was malnourished and abused. Sam, with his gentle touch, nursed him back to health, and it ended up paying dividends for Sam because Bill seemed to give him a great deal of purpose and joy on this mission. And then when he had to give him up, the sacrifice that was to Sam was perhaps the greatest in the book so far, which again, I think that might honestly be the greatest sacrifice that was made in the book so far. I honestly don't know if any character, except for Boromir giving up his life, rest in peace, he made a great sacrifice for the Fellowship, was Sam's giving up of Bill the Pony. Now, Gandalf falling into the pit didn't seem like a sacrifice to me like it did in the movie. It felt accidental. And I'm glad he's back in the story, but it's almost annoying to me that Sam is now with Frodo somewhere in the wild, most certainly thinking about what potentially could have happened with his beloved Bill. Don't get me wrong. I love that Gandalf has a partner now in Shadowfax, but I'm a ride or die Bill fan till the day that I die. But again, I think this whole sequence with Shadowfax is so fascinating. I think they did it really well in the movies, but I think there's so much more lore to the book, obviously, about Shadowfax and who Shadowfax is, and I'm so curious what this relationship is going to look like. I know it's like almost silly, like it's a relationship between a horse and a wizard, but I am so curious how this relationship is going to carry on. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I think I'm so fascinated in Middle Earth with. Like how I know people can communicate with each other and talk with each other. How do animal beings and like wizard beings communicate? What is this bond of love between them? There's no words needed, but can they actually talk and communicate? I love that there's like I tell people this all the time about my dog, but I love that there's someone that I don't necessarily have to communicate with words who, you know, there's still this love and appreciation and loyalty to one another through. And I think this is kind of the same with Shadowfax, and I think this is one of the reasons why I really gravitate toward these sections in this book. But even though I still whistle for my dog like Gandalf does for Shadowfax, I still think I am more of a Bill and Samwise fan. But now I'm actually really curious. Which is your favorite of the two? Like the video if you like Shadowfax, and subscribe if you like Bill. Let me know in the comments what you think about this little battle between Sam and Bill versus Shadowfax and Gandalf, and I will see you in the next one.